Hey, everybody, welcome to Ron Line Report. Great guest today. If you've been following bodybuilding for a long time, you know this man very well. He was natural Mr. Olympia. He was 3 times natural Mr. Universe. And this past weekend, he did it. He became an IFBB professional at the Masters Nationals, winning the over 60 light heavyweight, or was it heavyweight? And overall, please welcome light heavyweight, John Hansen. John.
Hey, Ron. Good to talk to you, buddy.
Dude, I am so inspired by you doing that. You have no idea. I mean, there's hope for all of us.
Right.
But you didn't start. I know you've been training, competing for many, many years. You're one of the few people I know that's been training longer than me because you were 14 when you started. What year would that have been?
1977.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So 83 was me at age 13.
Okay. Yeah.
But you're still at it. And geez,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't see any torn muscles on you. I don't see any saggy skin or crazy wrinkles. I mean, you felt
right.
And that hair, my goodness, I had to go to Turkey to get my hair cut. You have a beautiful head of hair, John.
Yeah, good genetics.
But like I said, you've been around for so long. You had these titles, natural titles in other organizations.
Yeah.
What made you finally decide I'm going to go for the pro card and the big one, the IFBB Pro League?
It kind of really wasn't planned. I've been doing online coaching for the last couple of years, and last year I decided to get into shape and do some videos, for my online coaching. So I started my diet last July. I wouldn't say fat, but a little definitely off-season shape, Yeah. And because we're older now, it takes a while for our bodies to get into shape. So it took me like 6 months to really diet down and get lean.
Wow.
And Paul Revelia, who's a good friend of mine, he also owns Pro Physique, which is the company I work for. I do online coaching for his company. Paul was doing a video with me, and he's like, you should compete again. And I'm like, well, there's no other shows. It was already like end of the year. And he said, you should do Mel Chancey's show, the Holiday Classic, which is in December. It was right before Christmas. So I decided to do it. I hadn't competed in like 8 years. And I went in, and I didn't want to embarrass myself. So I was like, I don't know if I'm ready for the stage yet, And I went in, and I won pretty convincingly. And Steve Weinberger was the head coach, or the head judge. So, he's like, yeah, you look great. You should keep going, So I decided to do his show, The Universe. And that would be like 6 months later. So I got on a good off season of macros, and I was really watching my diet in the off season, which I never really did before. Usually off season was just off season, but I was really, really keeping track of it. And I really watched my macros and made sure my weight didn't go up. My waist only went like 1.5 inches up from what it was for the show. And then we started dieting like 13 and a half weeks out from a show in St. Pete, Florida, which was the week before the Universe. And then I went into those shows, and I didn't win the Universe, which I was planning to. I got second by 1 point. And so we decided to go for the Masters Nationals, which was like 2 weeks later. And then I ended up winning the overall. And then I got my IFBB Pro card. So it's been like a whirlwind the last 6 months, but I really didn't plan on, getting a pro card. I just decided to do it because I was really enjoying the process of improving my physique in my 60s, which I didn't know I could do. And I was able to do it in the off season. And after I did Mel's show in December, I said, my goal is to compete 6 months later, but I want to be an improved package. I want to be like 10 to 15% harder. And I also wanted to bring my legs up a little bit. And I think I did both of those things. So, it worked out fantastic. I was overjoyed to win, believe me.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, you've been training for 48 years. Is that right?
48 years. Yeah. Almost 50 years. Yeah.
Crazy. I mean, it's not that crazy. I'm not that far behind, but still, I mean, I've torn a tricep, a quadricep. I just had a shoulder replaced.
Yeah.
Joints. I mean, I don't recall. Maybe, it wasn't, social media wasn't always around, but have you had to deal with any major injuries or issues with joints throughout, especially this past few years?
No, and everything's been really good. I mean, the only injury I ever had was I tore my bicep, but that was back in 2000. That was a work-related thing. It wasn't even in the gym. And I had that fixed right away. And then, since then, obviously lower back pain's a little bit, but I just eliminated exercises that bother my lower back, like deadlifts off the floor. A couple of years ago, I stopped squatting with free weights. Now I squat on the Smith machine. But other than that, I could still do like bent over rows. I could still do T-bar rows.
Wow.
I really don't have any issues with the elbows or the shoulders. So yeah, everything's been really, really good. I still train heavy. I still train with a lot of free weights, but I do it within reason. I don't train stupid. I'm not going to train, use a weight I can't handle or that's going to injure me. If I feel anything, I back off, so I'm pretty smart with it. The way I do my training is I kind of use progressive resistance going up with the resistance of the exercises, either with the weights or the reps. And I'll do it for like a 6-week cycle, and then I'll take it easy for a week and then go back and then do another cycle. And I've been doing that for like the last 10 years, and that seems to be really good as I've gotten older. So I'm not really training to failure anymore. I'm not training like we used to when we were younger, pushing it to your screaming, I usually use a prescribed weight that I'm planning to do that day for a set number of reps. And it's always challenging and it always goes up. It's always progressive, but it's not something that my body can't handle,
Yeah, I mean, you're like you said, you train smart, which is I like to think I'm a smart person, but looking back, maybe not so much when it came to training, because something you said about if something doesn't feel 100%, like you could tell something's not quite right, a little bit of a twinge. Like,
yeah.
That's exactly the way it's almost word for word the way Dexter Jackson described how he would deal with things in the gym, and he never had a major injury, and he had the longest pro career out of. You would know. You're the. I honestly think you're the greatest historian. I didn't put it in the intro, but if people don't know, John Hansen is probably the greatest living historian of the sport of bodybuilding. I can't think of anybody that comes close to you right now.
Yeah, because I've been around so long, Ron.
No, I mean, you're not like you're 80 years old or anything, but I mean,
right.
The late Peter McGuff was a great historian.
Right. Yeah. Awesome.
And Giles knows quite a bit, but he doesn't go back. You could actually, the golden era. You could talk about shows and competitors going back how far, like the late 50s, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in the 70s, really, the end of the 70s. In fact, I saw my first Mr. Olympia was 77, the year Frank Zane won.
Wow.
Because I lived in Chicago, and, the Olympia back then was being promoted by Arnold and Lorimer in Columbus. Yeah. So I talked my dad into going out there. So, I saw the Olympia in 77, 78, 79, 81. I saw those early ones, with the guys from the 70s. So, yeah. I go back, but I've got a ton of magazines. I got like a library of magazines that I've kept, and I bought more. So I'm constantly reading about, the history of the sport and stuff. So.
Yeah. And, there a lot of guys of our generation, our age, are being lambasted as being these old bitter haters. Like, we hate the current era. I've never seen one post or heard you say one unkind thing about, the modern competitors.
Yeah.
Things have evolved. Obviously, I sort of bite my tongue sometimes. Other times I probably say things I shouldn't, but you've been around quite a while. You've seen a few different eras already.
Yeah.
How does this era compare? I mean, is it just a natural evolution, you think?
Well, I think, the chemistry has changed. Obviously, we know that. We've got growth hormone and insulin available now, where they didn't have that back in the 60s and 70s. And I think that's changed the physiques by making the physiques bigger. So then the question is bigger better? And I think a lot of people look at bodybuilding improving or progressing by the guys getting bigger. The difference with bodybuilding, of course, is that it's kind of an art form, and it's looked at it in an aesthetic viewpoint as well. And once you start adding more and more size to a frame, the question becomes, is it too much size? And does it affect the aesthetics of the physique? And if you listen to a lot of the old guys, and I have this bodybuilding podcast, Bodybuilding Legends show podcast, where I talk to a lot of the legends. I talk to a lot of the guys from the 70s, and that's their main complaint, is they think that the artistry of bodybuilding is gone. The beauty of the physique is gone because they've added so much size. And I mean, you go back to like Lee Labrada, I think, has mentioned this, mass with class. He's always said that you don't have, your body can only, your structure can only hold so much size, and then once you get beyond that. So a lot of people believe in that. Other people believe that, hey, the bigger, the better. So it's just a viewpoint of how you look at it and how the judges look at it and how the fans look at it, how much is too much. One thing I wish could be improved that, I'm sure you agree with me on this is the posing. I think the posing used to be really looked at as, an artistic, creative form of expression in bodybuilding. And I don't think it's looked at as much like that, or it's not worked on as much. And I wish the guys would work on that more, so we could have some of the classic routines like we used to see,
I've thought about that too. I mean, it used to be judged, at least at the pro level. I don't think at the amateur level it ever was, but would that improve? Obviously, if they're being judged, I think they would have to work harder on it, right?
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah. I mean, especially if the judges really did mark guys down for not doing good routines, or they mark guys up for doing better routines. Yeah, I think the pressure would be on these guys to do better routines, to have better posing routines, especially if they were losing close contests because of their posing,
Yeah. Who are, with no particular order, throw out like 3 or 4 or 5 best posers that you've ever seen, either live or on video?
Oh, Muhammad Makawe would definitely be one. I think Lee Labrada, Sean Ray, of course, Ed Corney was the guy who originated it all. And Bob Paris was very innovative too. Some of the stuff he did, he created new poses, the way, and if you look at some of his later competitions, like in the 90s, he was trying different things, different kinds of music. I remember one time he posed a Cher laying on the ground, doing
bang,
stuff
bang,
like
bang.
that.
I remember that.
Bang, bang, right.
89 Arnold.
Yeah. So you got to give him credit for really trying to bring a creative aspect into it. Bob was an artist. I mean, that's the way he looked at his physique. And of course, that's the way he looked at his posing too.
Yeah. And I think that's why he became so bitter and disenfranchised when he retired, because he saw the direction the sport was going in. I think it absolutely disgusted him.
Yeah. That's what I always try to tell younger guys too, is I tell them, create your own style, do your own thing. Bob Paris never won a pro show, but he still talked about 40 years later. I mean, he won the Nationals in 1983. That's over 40 years ago. And we still talk about Bob Paris. People still imitate his poses. So that's the impact he's had in the sport of bodybuilding, even though he never won Olympia, never won a pro show, but he's still remembered because he created his own style. He did his own thing.
Yeah. And I honestly don't, I mean, there's a few people that I think strongly influenced the creation of classic physique division. His name has to be one of the names in that pantheon.
I agree.
All right, I'm going to get this out of the way because I asked you about it before. You were a natural competitor for many, many years. You won the biggest natural titles you could, Olympia, Universal. I mean, that's it. What's after that? So people are commenting or asking the boards, and I was curious, did you have to go on a little bit extra? Did you go on? I imagine you're on TRT. I would think at over 60 years old.
Yeah.
Did you go anything over that to prepare for the show? Because it's not a tested show. You can do whatever you want.
Right. No, I didn't. I've been on TRT for the last 8 years since I was 54. I'm 62 now.
Wow.
I just do a really moderate amount just to keep my test levels normal, which is just half a cc. And that's all I've done. And I didn't do anything different for these competitions. Really, the progress that I made was all based on my training and my diet, watching the macros and then training really hard. I had a laugh. One of my competitors at the last show said, he goes, you weren't dieting as hard as me because I saw you were using more weight on squats, than you were in the off season. You were using more weight in the, for a contest, but I was dieting extremely hard. I just had to push myself to really, really push the weights and train harder than ever. So no, but I did not use anything else. I didn't want to, this was just kind of a personal thing for me to see if I can improve. And then I wanted to test myself at the national level to win an overall title of the Masters Nationals was really, really, I was overjoyed, so, but yeah, that's the truth. Believe it or not.
I'm more impressed now than I was when we started this conversation a few minutes ago. Because if I did it again at age 60, which in the back of my little monkey brain, I'm kind of mulling over, I would go on a little bit because, you were never a guy who did those cycles. I did that for years and years. And
yeah,
so it doesn't, I think I could do it one more time without going haywire. I think I could get away with very moderate doses. You guys are going to rip me apart in the comments. Go ahead, please. That's what they're there for. I want to talk about your longevity because that's the amazing thing is you were built very well at a very young age. We're looking at you as a teenager on the left.
Yeah.
I mean, would you have like 19-inch arms at age 19 already?
I think they were 18 when I was a teenager. And in that
geez.
picture there, I'm about 18 years old there. Yeah.
Wow. And the picture on the right, you're 180 on the left at 19, 21 years old on the right, 220 pounds. So I've known a lot of guys who had a pretty decent build at a very young age, but none of them lasted past like their 30s. They were all done with bodybuilding for whatever reason. They quit training, or they had health problems, or wife. They use that excuse. I got a job, a kid's wife. Okay, whatever. I mean, how do you? Because I'm sure you run into guys your age, our age. I'm going to say our age. It's close enough.
Yeah.
They probably come up to you and say, I used to do this. I could bench 500. And then maybe they show you a picture or something. But how have you maintained the motivation, the drive, the consistency? Because this is work. This is not just going to the gym and having fun lifting weights. It's, I don't know. I'm sure you eat 5-6 meals every damn day.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I'm just very passionate about bodybuilding. I love bodybuilding. I love the process of always trying to improve your body. Even when I wasn't competing, because when I came back into competition, I didn't compete for 8 years. But even during that 8 years, I would always, every once in a while, every couple of years, I would just diet down just to see what I look like at age 55 or age 58 or age 60. So I just love it as just as a personal journey, I guess. And that's what really turned me on about competing again this year. Was I wanted to see how I can improve. I wanted to see if it was possible to improve at 62 years old from 61 years old, and get even better. So I'm very, very passionate about bodybuilding. I remember when I discovered what bodybuilding was when I was 14 years old, I said, I want to do this, and I did it, it was a lifetime passion where I've done it my whole life. So yeah, I just love the journey, and I don't even know if I really wanted to win the pro card as much as I just wanted to see how well I can improve and how much better I can get. And now that I got the pro card, I want to see how much better I can get for next year when I'm 63 and I do the pro divisions, and start competing in the Masters Pro. So, yeah, I mean, if that answers your question, I just really love the journey,
Yeah, I'm curious because you said you started training in 77.
Yeah.
Correct. I can tell you exactly what the day was I decided to become a bodybuilder. What was the one thing that you saw, or it must have been either a picture in a magazine or something on TV, or what was that moment for you that you said, this is it, I'm going to do that?
Well, the first guy I saw who really motivated me to start building my physique was Bruce Lee. So before that, I used to read comic books when I was a kid. I used to read all the superhero comic books. And one of the things I loved about the comic books was I loved the muscular physiques that all the superheroes had. But bodybuilding was such a smaller sport back then. It was really a cult activity. There were very few gyms around. Not many people lifted weights. So I didn't know anything about lifting weights. I didn't know anything about bodybuilding. And then I saw this picture of Bruce Lee. It was at a car show where they had the Batmobile. And they also had the Green Hornet car, the Black Beauty. Yeah. And this was right after Bruce died. I'm not sure if it was the same year, but they had a big picture of him, and it said, in memoriam 1940 to 1973. And it was a picture of him from Enter the Dragon, and he was ripped and muscular. I had never seen a real life human being look like a superhero. Yeah. So I immediately went out and found out everything I could about Bruce Lee. And because he had just passed away, there was tons of books about him being written about his life. Mm-hmm. So I went out and bought everything I could, and I started doing everything he did. I started taking karate classes. I started doing push-ups, sit-ups, running. And he also lifted weights for more power for martial arts. So I asked my parents for a weightlifting set. So I did the, 10 exercise routine that came with the weights, and I did that for a while. And I wanted to do more. So then I asked them for a bench for my birthday. And then I started going out and buying the bodybuilding magazines. And then when I started buying the bodybuilding magazines, I was like, wow, this is what I want to do. I want to be a bodybuilder. And that year was 1977. And one of the guys I saw who really got me motivated to be a bodybuilder was Cal Scalak. I don't know if you remember him, Ron.
Oh, yeah.
He won the Mr. Universe that year. He beat Mike Menser, and he had a body a lot like Arnold, with big arms, big chest. And I remember him standing on stage, winning that Mr. Universe. And I said, that's what I want to do. I want to win bodybuilding shows and be in the magazines. And so I had my life kind of set out for me. That was my vision for my life, when I was reading those magazines at that age.
Yeah, I remember Dorian Yates was also a huge Bruce Lee fan as a young guy. That was the inspiration. I wonder if the picture you saw was the same one, because I had older brothers and they had the Enter the Dragon. It was a poster where he was like this, and he had the blood, the slashes from
right.
From that guy slashing him toward the end of the movie.
Yeah,
it was something else. I'm curious. You were at that one of the earlier Olympias. I mean, it started in 65, so that was only 12 years into the Olympia. When you think it's a 60-year show, that was still an early Mr. Olympia when you think about it.
Yeah.
You go to the Olympia every year now. How would you compare the Mr. Olympia contest back in 1977 in Columbus, Ohio, to what we have today every year in Las Vegas?
Well, it's obviously much, much bigger now. I mean, it goes for days. It's a whole weekend event. You know, there was no expo back then. There was just the Mr. Olympia and the Mr. International. That was the only thing. And the atmosphere was electric. It was just crazy. You know, I mean, everybody there was like a really, really serious bodybuilding fan. And the crowd was just going crazy. I mean, I remember I was hoarse the next day because I was standing up screaming like at a Beatles concert or something the whole day, you know? So you just don't see that kind of crazy energy for it anymore. I'm not saying that the fans aren't into it anymore. They are, of course, but it was just a different atmosphere, a different world back then. You know, it was like a kind of a cult sport, like I said. So it was just, the people there were just really hardcore bodybuilding fans. You know, it wasn't very well known outside of that, you know, that circle.
Yeah. You know, the sport is, everyone talks about the sport's grown so much, and I agree it has, but I venture to say that back in those days, like you were just talking about, if you were a bodybuilding fan, you were a real bodybuilding fan. You invested, you bought the magazines, you traveled to the contests, maybe you traveled to seminars, you bought tickets to these things.
There
was an investment, whereas now maybe we have 10 times as many people that follow bodybuilding, or you could call them fans. But what investment? They're just scrolling through things on their phone on Instagram or watching a YouTube video here and there. There's really no.
For sure.
And I think a lot of them just follow a particular person. Maybe it's a Sam Sulik or whatever, rather than following the sport or really caring about what happens in the actual sport.
Yeah. As far as the competitors, I mean, you know, Jim Mannion, the MPC and the IFBB has done an amazing thing with creating all these different classes, because now we've got so many more people from the mainstream population involved in bodybuilding, where back then, like I said, I mean, even if you went to the gyms back then in the 70s, it was just, you know, these little hardcore bodybuilding gyms. You would never see people from the outside world, like real people, you know, regular people coming into those gyms. There was no women in there. And so now they've opened it up to where more people are adopting this bodybuilding lifestyle because there's more opportunities for them to compete. But it was definitely more of a cult, I guess, sport back then than it is now.
Which leads me to ask, you know, there's a glut of information. I think they have too much information now.
Right.
But where did you get it? Because 1977, early, you know, there's no internet back then.
No.
There's magazines and, you know, maybe a bookstore, you could find some books on it. But how did you learn everything you needed to learn about training and eating and all that?
It was all the magazines in the beginning. First 2 years I trained at home because I didn't have a driver's license. So from 14 to 16, I just trained in the back room of our house. And that's where I put all my weights. And, you know, I always had to move the weights out back to the wall. You know, my parents would have parties and stuff, you know, or holiday parties or whatever, and then put the weights back. So I got everything from magazines. And then after that, I started going to a gym, and then you'd pick up information from other guys. But, you know, it was just hand-me-down information. Some people knew what they were talking about. Some people didn't. And then when you started competing, you know, if you were friendly with some other competitors, I started competing at 16, and I ended up doing 10 teenage contests. So I did a lot of teenage shows. So I met a lot of guys back then. But, you know, sometimes you don't talk to the other competitors. But really, it was just mostly the magazines, and then you would just talk to other people. But it was really hit and miss, you know, like now, you know, like with the macros that I followed this year, and even like my peaking for that contest, me and Paul had it like set up to the point where it was almost bulletproof. And I just dialed it in, no problem. I remember back when I was younger, it was just that peaking process was such a guessing game. You know, you carb deplete, then you carb load. And do I drink water? Can I have salt? It was just like, you know, and if you ask 10 people, you get 10 different answers. It was just crazy. But now it's like I know exactly what to do, and I try to stay lean in the off season and then try to dial it in for the contest, and then it's much, much easier, But it was much hit and miss back then. Even the tanning, the tanning, everybody had to do their own tanning. So, you show up to the show, some people be white, some people be green, some people, one or two would nail it perfectly, but it was a totally different sport back then.
Yeah, I remember there was a product called Dioderm.
Yeah, I used that. Yeah.
And I think half the people had a green tint to them when they used it.
Right.
It didn't work out well. I want to ask, you like I said, you started training back when there were plenty of, obviously the drugs they've been a part of the sport for a very long time. Yeah. And when you start out, they weren't even illegal, I don't think. They didn't become illegal until like 1988.
Right.
And it really wasn't, from what I don't know, I was too young to even know if the discussions that were going on, but I don't think there was a stigma around using them back then. But I think you tried like one cycle when you were very young, and then for like a week or two or something, and you said, screw this. How did you, what led you to the decision to remain drug-free all those years?
Well, I read the magazines in the beginning, and I remember there was an interview with Arnold. I remember I read it when I was 15 years old, and he said that all the guys used steroids at that level. Yeah. But then he said that steroids were just temporary. And he said, if you're a young guy and you want to build your physique, you should do it with training and nutrition, and you should build your physique naturally. He didn't use the word naturally, but that's basically what he was saying. He said, you have to build your physique with real training and real nutrition, because the drugs are just temporary. And I remember that resonating with me when I was 15, and I was like, okay, I get it that these guys are all on steroids, but I'm 15 years old. I'm 150 pounds. I got a long way to go. I shouldn't be messing with that stuff at all. And I wanted to have a physique that was going to be with me for the rest of my life, not something that was going to be temporary. So that's what stuck with me as a teenager. And I remember at one point when I was competing in the teenage shows, I never won a teenage show, because you remember, Ron, those teenage shows back then were super competitive. 30 guys in a local teenage show, easy. I've done shows. I did a Teenage Mr. Illinois where there was 80 guys in the show.
What?
80 teenagers. It was crazy. There was 40 guys in my class.
Yeah. No.
And I never won. I'd place high, I'd get top 3 or whatever. And my training partner was older than me, and he was doing a cycle. He wasn't competing. He was just doing it for himself. And he told me, he said, man, it's frustrating to watch you compete against these guys. You're never going to beat them. He goes, let me get you on a cycle for the next show. He goes, I guarantee you'll win it. He goes, you're top 3 right now. He goes, you'll definitely win. And I told him, nope, I got a long way to go yet. I want to build my physique naturally. I don't want to take anything. So after my teenage shows were over, and I never used anything back then, then I bulked up to 230, and I did all that natural as well. So I really built the foundation, the groundwork for my physique, totally natural. It took years. It took like 7 years. I didn't do it in only 1 or 2 years. But it took me a long time to do it, but it was all natural, and that physique stuck with me throughout all these decades. So that's my advice to these younger guys, is you just got to put the time in, no matter how long it takes. I had a fast metabolism, so it took me a long time to gain the size. But you have to do it naturally, because if you just rely on the drugs to do it, once you get off the drugs, the results will go away.
Yeah. I mean, I even though obviously I competed naturally and then unnaturally, but I still tell everybody, when you're on gear, part of that muscle, the strength, the size, it's rented.
Yeah, exactly.
You're paying rent. And when you stop paying rent, means stop taking those drugs,
right.
You're going to lose some of it, 30,
right.
40, 50, whatever. And, like my son, he's 25. I was still natural at 25, but he doesn't want to use drugs. And that's the main reason. He saw me go up and down a few times over the years. And, the depression, when you've been superhuman, when you've been this big and jacked and freakish and people paying all this attention to you, and then you're smaller and softer and weaker. Oh, it sucks. It's the worst.
Yeah. And I think that's why I'm still able to go into my 60s, doing this, because I didn't rely on the drugs. And the guys who did rely on the drugs or used a lot of the drugs when we were younger in our 20s and 30s, they can't keep going, because their bodies are burnt out from it. So you have to do it. The way to have longevity in the sport and the way to have health in the sport is to do it naturally. And even if you decide to use something later on, you don't have to use that much. And, but you got to build that framework. You got to build the foundation naturally. And that's going to take time. It's going to take time. It's going to take a lot of hard work. And I think a lot of people don't want to do it because they don't want to put the time in.
Yeah, I was going to absolutely. There's you with the, there's Bruce Lee in the back.
Yeah, there's Bruce Lee. There it is.
Oh no, those weren't. Were those nunchucks, or that was when he had the.
That was when he had those the bars. Yeah, when he was fighting down in the basement. Yeah, and then for the dragon.
Love Bruce Lee, but it bothers me to see kids as young as 15, 16. I get messages from them, but I see them on Instagram, and I don't have TikTok, but I know it exists. Talking about they're on all this trend, and
that's great.
If they're not on it, they want to be on it. It's frightening to me. And if I try to be the voice of reason, they call me like a grandpa, boomer. They think I'm trying to keep them from getting results or keep them from achieving their goals. I mean, you probably get even more of that than me because you're a little bit more of a public figure in a lot of ways. So how do you talk to these kids? How do you sort of talk them off the ledge, or do you?
I try and tell them the same thing I just said, but yeah, you're right. A lot of them don't. That's the sad thing about it is it's not that they couldn't do it. They don't believe they can do it naturally. They believe they can't build any muscle at all without taking drugs. And that's such a sad statement. It's sad that these kids believe that, especially at that age, because when you're young like that, you have all your hormones are working for you. Your metabolism is jacked, everything's ready to go. All you got to do is put in the work. You can eat tons of food and you can get big, but you've got to train hard and you've got to train correctly. You've got to use the basic exercises. You've got to use more weight. I see so many of these kids in the gym today just using these isolation type movements, and they're not training hard at all. This is the time when you really need to push it. You really need to lift heavier weights and really need to push your body in a safe way. You don't want to hurt yourself, because we've seen the videos of that too. But you've got to do it, in a safe way. And but man, that's the time to make the gains, is when you're young. Between 14 and 21 is when I built, like I said, the foundation of my physique, and then that stayed with me for the next 4 decades or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, you just hit another good point. I'd say my number one pet peeve. I'm going to sound like a grumpy old bitter old man, but obviously I hate seeing very young people on drugs. I think, like what you said, those younger years when your hormones are at their natural prime peak, you're never going to get that again. That's a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Right.
You'll be 40 years old and wishing your body could still pump out all that test and GH like it was.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, you hit the nail on the head with the science-based lifter kids.
Yeah.
I see all these posts where, here I go, broccoli heads. They have the broccoli hair, but a lot of them look like they've never even trained yet. There's like no muscle on them, and they're telling you this exercise is better. Barbell rows are useless. Squats are useless. Bench press, these dips, these are all useless. You need to do and they'll have a cuff with a little cable, and I'm like, where's the disconnect? How do they not understand and look in the mirror and say, wait a minute, I don't have any muscle, and these people that I think are training like morons with all these obsolete exercises and techniques, they're 10 times my size.
Right.
How do they not make that connection?
I don't know how they can't see that. Right. Exactly.
I mean, I'm not the brightest bulb at times, but there you are, Lou Ferrigno in 1977. Wow.
Yeah, I was 14 years old. I went to, you were asking me about the moment. This was it, Ron, right here.
Oh, wow.
Our family took a trip out west. Like I said, I lived in Chicago, and my mom and dad arranged this 4-week trip. It was a road trip, we didn't fly. Yeah. So we drove through all these states, and we went all the way to California. And while we were in California, at this time I had been reading all the magazines. So when we got to California, I asked my dad if we could go to Gold's Gym, because I wanted to see Gold's Gym because I've been reading about it. And he said, we don't have time. We're going to Universal Studios today. Tomorrow we're leaving California. We're going to Las Vegas. So I was bummed out, and we pull into Universal Studios, and there's a sign saying, today filming World's Strongest Man contest.
Wow.
So my mom tries to cheer me up, and she's like, well, maybe you'll get to see some of the bodybuilders here. And I'm like, nah, it'll probably be a bunch of fat weightlifters. So we pull in, and off to the side, they got this roped off area, and everybody's like eating lunch there and stuff. And Arnold is sitting there. And he's sitting there with a girl and a guy, and we like waved to him and stuff. And then Lou Ferrigno and Franco are in the contest. They're in the World's Strongest Man contest. And Lou, you could see, he was huge. He was like 275, 280. He was getting ready for the Olympia that year. And then he ended up getting the Hulk role like a couple weeks before the Olympia, and he had to drop out of the contest. So I got to meet Lou Ferrigno, and I got to meet Franco, and that was also the show where Franco hurt his knee. He was running with that refrigerator, and that must have happened like a day later, because it didn't happen the day we were there. But I think they filmed it over the weekend, did all these events, and Franco and Lou Ferrigno were competing against other power lifters and weightlifters.
Yeah, I mean, tell me that was not a coincidence, John. That you
I know, right? Destiny, right?
Just happened to be there that day.
I know. I got to meet the 3 greatest bodybuilders of that time just by chance. I didn't plan it at all.
I don't know if you guys, if you don't believe in God or whatever, you got to believe that there's some kind of fate. There's some kind of higher power shaping our destinies, because there's no way that this was a coincidence.
That's exactly what I thought. I go, this is destiny, and I couldn't wait to get off that trip, get home, and start training. I was so inspired. It was unbelievable.
I can imagine. I know, because you had the mass that you did, a lot of people never believed you were natural, and they don't care how many tests you passed or anything.
Yeah.
Did that bother you, or did you take it as a compliment?
I take it as a compliment. I mean, I think people think you look so good that you're on drugs, that's awesome. Yeah, I think that's why they believe, I even get accusations now, like I beat the drug test. And I'm like, if I was taking drugs, why would I even go in a natural show? I would just go in a non-tested show. That's so stupid. I'm not a chemistry major. I don't know how to beat drug tests. And I competed in natural shows for 15, 20 years. So, and I got tested every time. So I don't know how they think I could beat these drug tests.
I remember this in Ironman.
That was the first natural universe I won, 92.
I think was it out in LA?
Yes, it was. It was Venice Beach High School, actually.
I was there. Was Mike O'Hearn in the show that year too?
No, he was. I competed against Mike in 85. 95. This was 92.
Okay. No, I know, because I know he was competing at a young age too.
Yeah, he did that same organization, the ABA.
I think I was at this show. I think I went and watched it.
Wow. Okay.
Venice High School. There was a lot of shows there. I did ABCC. Do you remember that organization?
Yeah, I remember that one too. Yeah.
they had their show there. Wow, good times, man. Yeah, I guess the last thing I want to get into is, you've become an educator. You become a journalist. What's it been like to interview and really get to know on a personal level so many of these guys that you looked up to and you read about in magazines, and now you could pick up the phone anytime you want and talk to Samir or Tom Platz or whoever? Yeah,
that's amazing, because I grew up as a kid reading about these guys. These guys were my idols. So I've had this Bodybuilding Legends show for, I think I started about 7 or 8 years ago. And I'm glad I started it when I did, because unfortunately a lot of those guys have since passed away. But I got to interview, like, Mike Quinn, you just showed there, Chris Dickerson, a lot of these guys who are no longer with us. And it's amazing that I'm friends with so many of these guys now, and because I still admire them so much for the physiques that they had and what they did. And I'm glad I started this show. I didn't really, plan it at the time, but it ended up being really, really popular. A lot of people love it because you're hearing the stories from them. You're hearing it from the horse's mouth. So it's much better that way than just reading something on Google or whatever. And you got to get it while these guys are still around, and hearing it from the the horse's mouth and hearing their stories, and it's been a really great experience.
And I'll tell you what, I'm amazed at the success of it, only because I probably have this limiting belief that the people that watch YouTube, they don't care. They're all youngsters. They don't care about anything before maybe, like, I don't know, 2015 or so.
Yeah.
But I see you do get, I imagine a lot of your viewers must be older, and they do appreciate and want to hear about these guys, because I don't think there's like an 18-year-old out there who would really necessarily want to hear about Robbie or Samir and the way they train or anything.
No, actually, there are a lot of younger guys. When I go to the Arnold or I go to the Olympia, I'll get a lot of people coming up to me saying they love my thing. And some of them are younger. Some of them like the way those golden era physiques looked. And they'll get information about that, and they love the show. So that's encouraging to hear that young people are really interested in guys from the 70s and 80s,
Yeah, I mean, I remember talking to like Ronnie is amazed at how many people still know who he is. It's because of YouTube.
Yeah.
Because when you think about it, Ronnie retired before a lot of these kids were even born.
I know, right?
they say, yeah, buddy, and lightweight and all that stuff.
Yeah, right.
Man. Rich Gaspari, yeah, he goes way back too.
Yeah.
I'm getting distracted looking at all these cool. You have a great Instagram page.
Thank you.
I guess to wrap it up, I just want to know, now that you've got the pro card, first of all, do you feel any different? Does it really hit you like I'm a pro now?
Yeah, it really did. Like I said, going into it, I just wanted to win. And then they gave out 2 pro cards in the over 60, the guy who wins the overall and the guy who gets second in the overall. So when they lined us up for the overall with me, the heavyweight, the middleweight, and the lightweight, they initially moved me out to the outside. I'm like, oh, no.
Huh.
But I think they were looking for second place between the heavyweight and the middleweight. So then they told us to go back, and then they announced him first. He was the second place guy, the heavyweight guy. And then I didn't know if I was going to win. So then I won. I was like overjoyed. But then when I thought about it, the last couple of days, I told my girlfriend, I was like, wow, this is just amazing, that I'm an IFBB Pro. It's like it is a kind of an elite group, and it's something I really didn't plan on it, but it has kind of hit me, in the last few days.
Yeah, I mean, because as much as I'm going to come across as a hypocrite because I say, it's so easy to turn pro now, and so many pro cards, and because my gym alone, I go to a gym with like 1,000 members. It's a big gym, but we have at any given moment, there's about 10 to 20 IFBB pros that train there.
Yeah.
In all different divisions, physique, classic, bikini, whatever. But I still want it. And I remember Dave Palumbo put it this way. And unfortunately, Dave never got it either. Maybe he'll come back.
Right.
But he put it this way. And tell me if you see it the same way. He saw a pro card as something like a college degree. Like it's a sign that a nod that here you achieved this level of mastery.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I have a lot more respect for it too. I might have taken that more callous approach about it too. But now that I'm in it and I tried to get it and I didn't get it like at the NPC universe, I see these people that are at that level and they're trying to get it for years. And I was fortunate to get it in my first year competing on the national level. Yeah. But it's not easy. The competition is very tough at any division. I was in the over 60. You would think over 60 would be a walk in the park, but it's not. And I think there was 42 guys in the over 60. So it was a big division. Yeah. So it is well earned, and there is a lot of respect to getting a pro card. So I have a lot more respect now for anyone who gets a pro card. I don't think like they're just not handing them out. I don't believe that anymore. So I do have a different look at it.
I was also encouraged when you said earlier that you are going to make use of this card.
Yeah,
that's a pet peeve of mine. Is so many people that get the pro card and they're done. They just want to put it on their Instagram and I did it. Yay, peace out. But I always say if I got it, I know I in my heart of hearts, I know I was never awesome. I'm never going to be awesome bodybuilder. But if I got the pro card, I'm going to go to a pro show once.
Absolutely, yeah.
So there are pro shows for masters.
Yeah.
Do you already have one picked out?
Yeah, Tim Gardner has 2. He has the Chicago Pro Show, and then he has the Tampa Pro Show. He has pros in both of those, and then Gary Udit does one with the North America, which is the World Masters, I think. So I plan on doing all 3 of those next year. I was going to do the Tampa because it's in 2 weeks, but after 4 shows in 6 months, I was kind of burned out, and I just been eating too much.
You've been in Florida for how long now?
15 years.
But you're originally from Illinois, right?
From Chicago, yeah, Illinois.
So Chicago Pro and Tampa Pros would make perfect sense.
Yeah, it's perfect, right?
I would do the same thing. So I'm curious, you were in prep a long, was it how many, 20 weeks, 25 weeks?
Well, I started dieting 13 weeks out, but I only had like 3 months off season because I did the show in December.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was kind of a short off season, and then 13 weeks out for the first show, and then another week, and then 2 more weeks. So it was probably like a 16-week diet altogether. So
what did you eat that night when it was all said and done?
Well, it's kind of frustrating. Me and my girlfriend, we stuck around for the show, and then after, it was a Thursday, which I never competed on a Thursday. So every place was closed at 9 o'clock. We couldn't find any place. So we went to this.
Yeah. Where'd you go?
We went to City Works, I think it was like in the city in Pittsburgh, and we had like a cheeseburger and dessert and stuff. So it hit a spot,
Yeah, I mean that's the only great. I shouldn't say it's the only great thing about Vegas, but you never have to worry that in Las Vegas you're not going to be able to find somewhere open that's got food.
Exactly.
But like Columbus, they roll up the sidewalks at 11 o'clock, and
right.
things like that. But man, John, I'm so happy for you. Inspired.
Thank you, Ron.
I got a new shoulder 4 weeks ago today.
How's that doing?
I start PT tomorrow. So, but you lit a fire under me.
Right.
John can do it, man. John didn't give up. I haven't been on stage since 2013 Masters. And I would love to come back one more time.
You should
go for it. And I can credit you with a lot of that motivation because we have a lot of things in common. We've been at this a very long time.
We've known each other a long time.
Journalists. We have probably like 1,000 friends in common.
Right.
So man, it's almost like vicariously when you got that pro card, I jumped up and I felt a little tinge of it myself.
Yeah, so. That's awesome. Yeah.
So God bless you, man. I really, I'm stumbling for words here. So anyway, I'm going to encourage everyone, follow John on John Hansen 1. He's got a great website, johnhansenfitness.com. And your channel is called what? Your YouTube channel?
It's just under John Hansen.
John Hansen, perfect.
Or I think it might be under my email, Natural Olympia.
Okay.
But yeah, if you look under John Hansen, you'll find it.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, every living legend, and he's got tons on there that have unfortunately already passed. But I try to impress upon these young people, learn your history, because everything now, these are the people that built the foundation. You wouldn't have the Chris Bumsteads and the Sam Suleks and the Samsons if it hadn't been for the Arnolds and the Francos and the Samirs and those guys. So
absolutely, right.
We have a lot to learn from these guys. The golden era, as much as we think, they think that everything is so advanced now, and everyone back then was like this dumb caveman. Not much has really changed when you get down to it in terms of training and eating. Things have been refined, but the basics are still the basics. Anyway.
Yeah. And I do want to thank my coach, Paul Revelia. He really helped me out for the, not only in the off season, but also pre-contest. So I want to thank my girlfriend, Stephanie, who's like, man, she was just like, she wasn't like Adrian in the movie. She was like Adrian and Mickey together. She was like encouraging me after I got that second place. Like, you got to keep going, you got to go for the Masters Nationals. And she said, we're going for that pro card. And we did it. So I want to thank her as well.
That's her, right?
Yeah, that's her.
I was going to say, you got it pinned. That's a smart man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, it's an individual sport. You're the only one on that stage, but everybody's got a team behind them. Your coach, your girl.
Yeah.
It's something that if you had to do it on your own, it would be brutal. It would be miserable.
Yeah. And it wouldn't be as rewarding too.
It wouldn't. I mean, to be able to share this with people that care about you, that's a blessing. It really is.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, that will wrap it up, man. I thank you so much, John.
Thank you, Ron. It was great talking to you.
And wish you well in your pro debut preparations, which
took
a little time. And
I'm
gonna be following you even more closely. I've already been following you, but to see if you're able to keep improving at that age and on TRT.
I'm excited. Yeah.
God, if somebody's 62 years old and only on legit TRT, and I say legit, you're doing like what do you say, a half a cc?
Half a cc, yeah, that's it.
Like 100 milligrams?
Yeah, 100 milligrams, right?
If somebody can do that, no one has an excuse. I'm sorry, you have no excuses. Right. So pure motivation, pure inspiration.
And I'll bring it with the posing next year too, I promise.
Oh, I mean, I want to. When are you going to post? Do you have like the routine to post eventually?
Yeah, I'll post that. Yeah, for sure. But I always work hard on my posing. I always, try to make good music and, always try to do a good job with that because I always feel like the posing is so important. It represents the sport. It gives respect to the sport of bodybuilding. So now that I'm a pro, I'm going to really work on it and really try to do a great routine for next year.
Right on. Cool. Looking forward to it. All right, guys. Follow John. And John, thank you so much for the interview. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Ron.
Thanks, everybody, for watching Ron Line Report with this man, John Hansen. We'll see you next time.